club one night in Dublin, and there was a band called Orphanage playing, and Brian Downey was the drummer, and Phil Lynott was the singer. So I just approached them and asked them did they know any musicians, and they said no. But we ended up forming a band together. That's how it started.
And then reduce my wager. I said, stand or deliver. On the devil, he may take you. Rush your ring, dama-doo-dama-da.
Where does the name Thin Lizzy come from?
It comes from a comic, an old comic in well, it was in Britain when I was a kid, called The Dandy. I think it's still out actually, but there was a character in there called Tin Lizzy, Tin Lizzie, and she was a female robot.
Little girl in bloom, with happy heart you are beside. In a sadness.
What kind of music did you guys listen to back then?
Beatles, Stones, The Faces, Hendrix, Cream, Jeff Beck, loads of different groups, loads and loads.
How did you come up with the sound, you know, mixing folk music, blues, rock, pop, soul?
Well, because I played in an Irish show band, I was, part of my guitar style was playing like Danny Boy. Oh, Danny Boy, this type of stuff. And Philip liked blues, or sorry, Brian liked blues, Brian Downey liked blues. And we had actually, I had a very strange record collection. And Philip had a strange record collection, and Brian Downey had a strange record collection. So whenever we got together, we would lend each other different albums, yeah? And these albums were folk, blues, rock and roll, jazz, you know, all types of music. So that's how we ended up playing traditional music and electric music and so on.
Hey mister, can I shine your shoes? Hey mister, can I sing the blues?
Why did you leave Dublin for swinging in London?
Because we had basically become the biggest band in Ireland at that time. And Ireland's a small place. And we'd played all the big places. So there's nowhere else to go. You know, once you've played Ireland loads of times, and then you start becoming big, you play it less, because there's less bigger venues. Then you play them, there's nothing else. You can't do it again, you've done it. So also because we got offered a record deal in England.
My mama nature said, it's murder what you done. I said,
How did it affect the band musically and relationship?
Moving to London?
Yeah.
It did affect the band. Good question, because we were leaving sort of home basically, and all our friends and all our people and all the pubs we knew and so on, and loads of different musicians. And then we'd leave there and come to London. We didn't know anybody, you know. And London's a very, very, very big place compared to Dublin. And it's much faster and, you know, so all that affected us. Plus, the musicians in London were more, they weren't really any better than Irish musicians, but they were more flash. You know, an Irish musician would stand there going, a big sort of sweater on and jeans, but the English musician would have this amazing sort of jacket on and these amazing jeans and be out.
More flash.
Oh
and
yeah,
style.
more, you know, selling it. So that affected us as well.
push your ring, dama-doo-dama-da. Wait for my daddy-o. Wait for my daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar.
We were doing a tour in Germany at the time, and it was horrible. It wasn't very good because we had been booked into the wrong clubs. We were booked into sort of, I don't know, nightclubs, I suppose, wine bars. And we were going on, going like, quang, you know, there's people sitting there going. And we were nearly on the verge of breaking up. And we got this telegram from London saying, congratulations, Whiskey in the Jar is number 20 in the charts. Please come home. And we thought it was a joke. So we phoned up the office and they said, no, it's number 20 in the charts, come home. So we went home. But what we had to do was, there was about another 7 or 8 gigs that we had to play because we had signed contracts with these people before Whiskey in the Jar became a hit. So they got us real cheap. I mean, we were going out for like, say, when Whiskey in the Jar became a hit, we went out for maybe like £2,000. Before Whiskey in the Jar was a hit, we went out for £60. So these clubs were getting us for £60.
Bargain.
Yeah, oh, big time. And then, as I said, it became a hit. It became number 5, and it was number 1 in Ireland for like about 3 months. And it was a hit in Germany and so on. So everything changed, you know, overnight.
I am your main man if you're looking for trouble. I take no lip, no one's tougher than me. I kick your face, you'd soon be seeing double. Hey little girl, keep your head top of me. I'm a rocker.
So why did you leave the band? Was the pressure too big with the success?
It was various reasons, you know. I was getting to sort of into drink and the drugs, yeah, but all the time, you know, not just like once a week, but
Like every day?
Oh yeah, every day, every morning, every afternoon, every night, every morning, and so on. And then there was musical differences, because when Whiskey in the Jar became a hit, everybody wanted us to get a second hit, like the management, the record company, the agencies, all wanted us to get another hit, so we were pressured. And all the sort of experimentation went out of the band, and we started trying to get another hit, you know, really trying so hard to do this that it affected the music, obviously. And that was another thing I didn't like, you know.
Tell me about your last gig with Lizzy. Is it correct that you cracked up on stage in Belfast 73?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I just standing on stage one night and I was very, very, very drunk. I mean, I shouldn't have played. And very tired. And I started playing on the stage, and I started hallucinating nearly on stage. And also I was getting this sort of feedback from the guitar that I just couldn't control. And all this was happening, and I was going, oh my God, I've had enough, you know? And a little voice inside your head goes, throw the guitar up in the air and walk off, you know? And a lot of the time you don't listen to this little voice. We all have it, but you go, no, don't be stupid. But this night I listened to this little voice. Throw the guitar up in the air, and I took it off, and I threw it up in the air. It became a reality, yeah? And there's nothing you can do. Once the guitar's up there, it's like, oh my God, I changed my mind, you know. Bang. And I kicked all the amplifiers off as well.
Did anyone get hurt?
Oh no, no. And I sort of staggered off the stage, and that was it. And
What was Philip's reaction?
oh, he was, you know, fucking boy. And Brian as well. Brian just went like this, you know. They just flabbergasted completely.
Stop the mediator, shoot an operator you will never see. See you later, no one may disobey her openly. She knows music, I know music, do you see? Queen Rosalie, Rosalie, Rosalie.
Well, I was in 1974, and I had already been in England for only about 5 months, and I had 1 more month to go on my visa, and I figured if anything didn't happen at that point, I would just have to go back to Los Angeles, which is where I'm from, and just kind of go back with the attitude of, well, I gave it a shot. It didn't quite happen, but the experience was great. But I was playing in a pub in London, and a friend of mine, who's an Irish friend, said, you know, there's this band called Thin Lizzy, and they're looking for a guitar player. And I'd never heard of Thin Lizzy before, because at that point, you know, coming from California, nobody had heard of Thin Lizzy in America. Nobody had heard of Whiskey in the Jar. It was not a hit over there, and it was, you know, kind of a minor-ish hit in Europe even, you know. And I thought that the name was kind of strange also, you know, Thin Lizzy. You know. How good can these guys be with a name like Thin Lizzy, you know? But I asked them what kind of music they were playing, and they said, well, it's kind of hard to describe. It's kind of an Irishy, but kind of a hard rock thing. And so I was kind of intrigued with that. So I said, okay, well, I'll go down and have a jam with these guys and see how it goes, you know. And it was in a part of town that I hadn't been to before. It was a place called Hampstead, and it was like pissing down with rain, and it took me a long time to actually find the place. And when I did, it was this African club that had African paintings all over the place, and you had to walk down this really long, narrow hallway. And I noticed in the background there was a lot of African waiters, you know, cleaning the place up for that night. And one of the guys that happened to pass by my line of sight was Phil. And nobody told me that the bass player in the band was a black guy. So I figured he was one of the waiters at the club.
But I'm dancing in the moonlight. It's caught me in its spotlight. It's alright. Dancing in the moonlight on this long hot summer night.
So I walked in and you know, said hi to everybody, and Phil bounced right up to me and introduced himself to me, and wow, great, how you doing? And we just got up there. He started to teach me a few of the songs. I caught on pretty quick to him, and you know, and we got on real well. And they didn't ask me to join the band right then and there at the jam session, because what I didn't know beforehand is they were actually taping this jam that we were having. So they all went back over to Phil's house, and they all pored over the tapes and listened to them and scrutinized them, and figured out that I was the guy that they wanted to use. Because apparently they'd gone through 25 different guitar players before, and they were getting really depressed over this. But when they heard the tape, Phil gave me a call that night and asked me if I would join the band.
Lonesome gambler, that woman will lead to heartbreaks. Take the word of one who played and lost in love. I played it cool, I dealt the heartaches, I broke the rules, but that woman, she cut me up.
Vad gjorde du och lät dansen då?
Shit. For hem till mig. Jag spelade lite skivor och sen ville hon ligga och kramas då.
Hej.
Ja, då tycker jag det gick lite för fort fram. Var sak har sin tid.
Bon Jovi är tillbaka. Bon Jovis nya singel Everyday finns i din butik nu.
Everyday.
Kom hit min vän och dela glädjen.
När luften tagit slut. Airwaves. Airwaves. Bite it and breathe free. Sångaren från Savage Garden, Darren Hayes. Nu är solodebuten här. Darren Hayes album Spin, ute nu.
Boss in Motion, the new fragrance from Hugo Boss.
Findus Wok presenterar spännande nyheter. Wok Plus. Plus kyckling och röd curry. Plus kokosnöt och lime. Plus nudlar sweet chili. Eller plus couscous oriental. Findus Wok Plus, nya sätt att njuta fräscha grönsaksrätter. Findus Wok Plus, so fresh you can taste the crunch.
I höst kommer en man att focka dig.
Sorry.
Gör dig redo
Unlucky.
på att möta Ali G.
Her Majesty the Queen. Shaven even. Respect.
Ali G in the house.
Coldplay. Debuten Parachutes innehöll mästerverk som Yellow och Trouble. Och nu är nya albumet här. A Rush of Blood to the Head. Nytt fantastiskt album från Coldplay.
Varje historia har en början.
Just don't fall out of the sky, Martha.
Smallville kommer snart. ZTV.
How did you develop the two lead harmony guitar sound?
Well, the harmony guitar sound really came as more of an accident rather than hey, let's do harmony guitars. It was I remember we were in the studio one day and I can't remember, it was either Brian Robertson or myself. We had this certain guitar line, and I think it was Brian. I'd already put my guitar line down, and all Brian was supposed to do was just double it, just play the exact same notes. And he had started it, I think, a bar late. Right, which meant that he was starting on the fifth or the third note, rather than on the route that I was starting on. And he just kept it going. He didn't stop. So it was harmonized all the way through, and we'd actually recorded it. And we sat back and we listened to it and went, what? Actually, that sounds pretty cool, you know. I've got another line here. Let's actually try to do a harmony on that line over there. And we did, and it worked in that song. And but you know, at that point, we weren't thinking of it as a certain guitar style. We just thought it was kind of a cool sound. It became a Lizzy sound when I actually read it in one of the newspapers on the next album, when we had done it again, when it was described as that patented, great Thin Lizzy guitar sound with the twin harmonies and all that. And I thought, oh, well, now that's cool. You know, we actually have a sound that people recognize. And I called up Brian and I said, hey man, you know, they're saying we actually have a sound. We have a style, you know. So that was kind of the start of the whole thing.
How was Philip like?
Phil had a lot of different characters to his personality. He could probably be one of the nicest, sweetest, warmest people in the world. And then he could walk in the door the next day, man, and he's like just totally the opposite.
Very, very romantic and great to be with. Real streetwise and, you know, hard man as well, but very romantic as well. It was a real mixture.
And Philip was a really great guy. I mean, I've been in this business over 20 years and I've never met anybody like him. You know, he was really the epitome of the rock and roll hero, you know. So it was, he was definitely a one-off, you know.
Guess who just got back today? Them wild-eyed boys that had been away haven't changed, had much to say. But man, I still think that
we were on tour in America when our manager came into the dressing room and said, well, boys, it looks like you got yourself a hit single, right? And what had happened was the radio stations in the Midwest had pulled The Boys Are Back off of the album and just started playing it themselves. And it was a snowball effect across America, to the point where where Phonogram or Vertigo in America said, well, geez, you know, let's put it out as a single. It came out as a single, and then it caught fire in America. And then you could actually see the single taking off up the charts, and then the album was going right after it. And so I would say that would have to have been the most important album, because that was the one that gave us our breakthrough. Each guitar player that's been in Thin Lizzy has brought a little bit of himself into it, you know. I thought what Eric did during the three-piece I thought was great, because in actual fact he was breaking a lot of new ground, and it's tough being in a trio, because you're now all of a sudden you're carrying a lot of space, you're trying to cover a lot of areas, and I respect him for being able to do that. Brian Robertson. You know, geez, he was 17 years old when he came into the band. He was this young kid. He was all fired up, man. He was ready to go, right? He had this real fiery sound to him, and he had the personality that went with it, you know, and he had a lot of original ideas, and he was a lot of fun to play with. And he and I had some great times together. Gary Moore, he's a great guitar player. Once again, he's a real inventive guitar player. He brought a lot into the band. He was only there for one album, but you know, the one album that he did, it was a great album. Snowy White, he was calmer. He was a calmer kind of personality, but nonetheless, he was a great guitar player. You know, he brought his own stamp to it. He brought his own personality. Then they got John. You know, John's a fireplug, man. He's a fireball out there. He can play 1,000,000 notes a second, or he can slow down and play some really tasty things.
Do you remember the day Philip died?
It was a hard day. It was probably one of the hardest days I've had to actually go through. He had the heart attack, and the day before, no, 2 days before, and I was immediately on the telephone saying, listen, should I come down to the hospital? Should I come down now? And people at the hospital were saying, no, you know, it looks like he's going to pull through this. It's not going to be a problem, you know, but he's got a lot of tubes and, you know, coming out of him, and he can't really talk to anybody, you know, so you know, just stay where you are, and you know, we'll keep everybody informed about what's going on. And I was down in the basement in my house. I was kind of clearing things up, and I heard the phone ring, and I heard my wife's voice, and I heard her start to cry, and I knew exactly what had happened at that point, and she didn't even need to tell me. You know, I just kind of sat on the stairs and started to cry myself.
Couldn't believe it. I could believe it in a way, because he was living that life, you know what I mean? And your body only takes so much.
When the spirit slips away, there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can say. May the angels be watching over you when your spirit slips away. When the darkness starts to fall,